Hello, and welcome to another edition of MMM TV.
We're at the Midsummer Motorhome Show at glorious Stoneleigh, Warwickshire, and we're surrounded by an array of camper vans and motorhomes, from the most luxurious to the surprisingly affordable.
A huge liner can set you back well over 150,000, but actually a new model generally is between 40 and 50,000 pounds.
And if that's still a little beyond your budget, you can pick up a quality used van for under 15 grand.
And it's days like today remind us why we all love our van life.
We're not sure, but we don't really know because we've not had any experience of them. So that's why we're here today.
Hire or see if you can take the one that you want to buy out on trial and trial it for a night or 2 nights first and see if it suits you.
Because we actually live in London and obviously house prices there are humongous compared to something like this. A spacious living space like this would cost you a lot more in London than investing in one of these, and it's got everything that you can basically need.
Like I see on social media and on Instagram, people like #van life, and I just think, oh, do you know what? I'd love to do that. Like I work for myself, so if I could buy a van instead of a house, I think I'd be happy with that because I've got a small dog. Yeah. Just get rid of all your stuff and just go. I think there's something so fulfilling just about freedom.
I've got a very mobile business. I've set up a mobile business over the last 3 years to be mobile. So the whole point of that is that I can work anywhere. So I want to be able to get out and explore England. There's so much to see and I haven't seen it. So I have some health challenges, so a motorhome is better for me than a caravan for the physical moving around. And I just like the idea of being able to jump in and saying, right, this weekend I'm off to.
We were away one weekend, holidaying and bed and breakfasting, and we were spending a lot of money bed and breakfasting and having to get back and only to sleep. It seemed a very expensive way, and we were seeing all these camper vans floating around, and we thought we could do that, and within a week we'd found one and bought it, and we've never looked back.
We travel all over France, Spain, Portugal. We generally go across on the Eurotunnel. So they don't even get out of their baskets when we travel. So
that's why we had the motorhome.
Obviously a motorhome, there's a lot more money tied up in a motorhome, but I think it's the way to go, especially as you get older, because you don't want to be lugging about with a caravan.
It's brilliant, it has everything. We can take the grandchildren with us, we can take the dog with us, and we go abroad, we take the dog abroad all over Europe, and so it's brilliant, and it's a wonderful ride.
Now, there are minimalist van layouts and there are minimalist van layouts, but what do I know about vans? Here's a man that really does know his stuff. It's the only Mr. Peter Vaughan.
Gucci, Prada, Giorgio Armani. They're all Italian. Ferrari, Lamborghini, Maserati, Ducati, all Italian. The list of famous Italian brand names is as long as a motorhome. As long as this Mobile Vetta motorhome, because this is an A-class with a bit of Italian style about it. A bit of yachting style too. This K-yacht is very Italian. As standard, this model comes on a 3.5-ton chassis that anybody with a full car licence can drive. But that only gives you 340 kilos of payload. And if you really want to make the maximum use of this big garage with its big loading doors on both sides, well, you might need a bit more. Go up to 3,650 gross weight, and that gives you correspondingly another 150 kilos of payload. If that's still not enough, then you can go to a heavy Fiat chassis, 4.4 tonnes and well over a tonne of payload, That should be enough for anybody. Now, not only do you then have lots of payload, but you've got convenient servicing access in there to your boiler. You've got main socket in the garage, heating in the garage. This little sort of wand, I think Harry Potter would like one of these. That enables you to find all the junk that you've loaded back here because you're bound to carry far too much stuff. And if you want more space, just press this button. From about 0.8 of a metre headroom in the garage to now just over a metre. So now you should be able to get your bikes on board. And still actually that bed's not too high inside. Driving here revealed great forward visibility, nice bus type mirrors, but just a few too many rattles. Now we're on site and, well, it's a rather lovely feeling inside. Again, very yachty with this high gloss furniture and the, well, it's called eco leather upholstery. And I think the eco bit probably means it's never seen a cow. It's a lovely ambiance. Typical continental style front lounge with this big permanent table, L settee and this little seat at the side. But again, it's all mirrored to what you might expect from a continental motorhome. Habitation door on the UK near side, and that, like the driver's door, is linked to the remote central locking. Now the table's got a neat trick in that I was fiddling around earlier, grabbing around underneath looking for a handle, and of course what I needed to do was look with my foot. You press your foot down on a little knob on the floor and it slides this way and that. Now I can reach my dinner here. That lasagna ready? No, not quite. In which case perhaps I'll start on the Prosecco. Now it's not unusual for an L-shaped lounge to be followed by an L-shaped kitchen, but this is a bit better than the norm. You've got these nice big soft closed drawers, 2 of them, 2 gas burners on this very modern looking Thetford hob, but you've also got an induction ring, so when you're on site plugged into the mains, that is much better than the old fashioned hot plates that we used to see in, well, still do see in a lot of British motorhomes. That's a really nice modern touch. Waste bin, always like to see a good practical waste bin, and this one's more of a waste bucket, easy to empty too, and conveniently there. Big sink, nice modern tap, and then underneath I rather like this pull out storage section. If you want more worktop, of course there's a slot in cover for the sink, but more than that, it's also a shelf. That's a nice feature too. Over on the other side of the vehicle we've got a big fridge freezer, and then above that an oven and grill. Not too high because the fridge is actually set at floor level, so I'd manage with this. You'd have to be a bit shorter before you'd struggle with that. More pull-out storage somewhere for all your tins and packet foods. That's another nice touch. And TV bracket above there, that's the only thing you don't get as standard on this motorhome, is an actual telly. The rear ensuite is a little different from the norm, with a central basin, all very designer. There are a few steps here and 3 doors to close it all off. The shower is a good size, but has a step in the tray. Access to the bed is easy, but it's not the biggest at 1.84 metres by 1.37, and your feet can't overhang the end because there's a wall there. That wall, however, is the perfect place for your telly. If you want single beds rather than an island double, then the K-Yacht 85 has twin beds above a garage, as well as a completely different bathroom arrangement in a marginally shorter body. The third model in the range, the K-Yacht 80, is the most compact at 6.99 metres, and it's also the most unusual. It doesn't have a fixed bed, but instead an L-shaped rear lounger with a drop-down double bed above. So we've got a 7.4 metre A-class motorhome with the popular island bed floor plan. At $72,995, it comes with pretty much everything as standard, even a solar panel, alloy wheels, and perhaps best of all, 12-volt underfloor heating, as well as the usual gas and mains Combi 6 boiler. A German van might give you a bit more of that hewn from rock solidity. A French van might give you a bit more homeliness. Where the Italian wins is on style.
One of the great pleasures of motorhoming is all the accessories you get to buy. Here's Genevieve with the very latest.
So today I've brought along this rather interesting pint glass here. Now it's a pocket size collapsible pint glass. Let's have a look. Just open that up. Okay, so you can see it comes in, it's in this little box like this. I think we just twist the lid. There we are. Give it a little shake and hey presto, there we are. That's our collapsible glass. The other thing I'm worried about is actually, you know, just how robust that might be. Just imagine, sort of, perhaps it's gone down a little bit. Not sure, let's have a go. Ooh. Let's just see if I can have another sip and see what happens. That's a little bit lower. I'm going to try that again and see what happens. Yeah, that's what happens.
And once you've found the van of your dreams, it's time to hit the road.
If you've never been to the New Forest, you're missing out. Our very own MMM's travel wildlife photographer David Chapman went down to the New Forest to explore the delights of this enchanting location. The New Forest, situated in the south of England, Hampshire to be exact, with Southampton being its nearest city and just over 1 hour and 32 minutes from London by road, National Park is easily accessible. An added bonus is that all the car parks are free, and they simply ask for a donation. This is a small price to pay when you consider there is no height restrictions. While in the New Forest, David stayed at Holmesley Camping in the forest site, and also Black Knob. Once you arrive, you'll notice that the New Forest is in fact bursting with very special wildlife. It was first established as a royal hunting park by King William I in 1079. Laws were introduced to increase the abundance of wildlife for William to hunt. One such law prohibited the fencing of land, allowing the wild animals to run freely, and also for the royals to hunt without restrictions. The constant regime of grazing through the centuries, along with various phases of tree planting, has resulted in the New Forest as we see today. Best displays of spring flowers tend to be within enclosures where grazing animals are prevented access. Pond Head Enclosure is a good place to see bluebells. The New Forest has many fine conditions suitable for certain animals to stay all year round. The common lizard and the slow worm and grass snake. A smooth snake and a sand lizard can be also seen. The mighty adder. Beautiful, but deadly. Adults can grow up to 35 inches in length. It feeds off small mammals, birds, and lizards. The New Forest is also home to the pony. This breed is indigenous to the New Forest in Hampshire in southern England. They have lived there before the last ice age, which dates back 500,000 BC. The population of ponies in the forest has fluctuated in response to very demanding for young stock. Numbers fell to fewer than 600 in 1945, but since then have risen steadily. And now thousands now run loose in the semi-feral conditions. So if you do decide to stay amongst its charm, with over 290 square miles of national park, it's worth a look. For more information of where to stay, log on to Out and About Live and enjoy one of Britain's best kept parks.
Now, one of the joys of motorhoming is meeting other motorhomers, comparing notes and comparing vans. And where better to do that than at the Peterborough show every year in April, the MMM Peterborough show. Everyone's there with their vans and they all meet and we all chat. And Rachel's here, Rachel Stoddart, the deputy editor of MMM magazine. Rachel, you get to meet lots of people in your role, particularly Jane this year at Peterborough.
Yeah, she has an amazing story. I've known Jane for a few years actually. She looked after her husband for 30 years and he had chronic MS. It changed their lives, but she didn't let it stop her from travelling all over Europe and the UK.
Let's take a look.
Driving, it has been quite therapeutic for me. Oh, I have no problem about travelling on my own. If MS has taught me anything, it's taught me to be a tough lady. But travelling on my own, driving on my own, I have absolutely no problem. I think driving so many roads in Europe and doing alpine passes on these little narrow hairpin bend roads with a son on board and a disabled husband, you know, I really had to have my wits about it. I did a trip up into Scotland last year on my own for a week, and every day I spoke to somebody new and I came away with a lot of happy memories and friends I probably will never see again, but for that week, you know, there were friends and just new people in my life. We've been coming to the shows since 1997. They're addictive. Very rare have I missed chosen shows since. I like the atmosphere. I like to be part of this happy band of travellers. I like to see the variations in the vans from, you know, my panel van conversion to the huge American RVs. I think mostly it's a social aspect, Rachel. Our favourite destination were the Alps. We did lots of Switzerland, Austria, French Alps. Also, we did a lot of Germany. We have Dutch friends, so we've done Holland. Basically, I've done a lot of driving to give my man as best a life I could from beyond the wheelchair. I'm proud to say that we managed to get him up the Aiguille de Midi, which is 12,500 feet up, and to have a man perched way up there in the observation tower in a wheelchair was just one of the highlights of our life and certainly of his.
Tell me about the cat, Jane.
Right, the cat. The cat is Baggins, and there's a story behind this cat. Sadly, Dave had to go into care. His MS had progressed to the point where after his severe downturn in Addenbrooke's, we had to fill out, I suppose you would call it a bit of a portfolio about Dave, about his background, his interests. Did he have pets? Because they wanted a background to this man before he started living with them. So he said, yes, we've always had cats. He's always been a cat lover. And bless them, on the day that we moved Dave in, this cat was on the bed And this was the home's room warming present to Dave. Sadly, when Dave died, I had the unenviable task of clearing his personal items out, which, yes, was very upsetting. And the cat was there, and one of the ladies said to me, "I think you should take the cat with you, Jane, because he'll probably end up in an incinerator." I said, "No way is this cat going in an incinerator. That cat is coming home with me." And because it was my last link with this care home, where Dave actually was happy, he was happy there, this cat travels everywhere with me. So Baggins is my constant companion. Dave took ill in 2014, and I had planned a French holiday. Sadly, he never got any further than Addenbrooke's. He took ill on the way down on the A1. But that holiday was always there in the background, needing to be done and tied up. So Darren joined me last year, and we did it in memory of his dad. And no sadness, Rachel, no sadness. It was all a happy holiday, and very much with Dave in mind. Sadly, this van is special to me because it was already in production when my husband died, and he never saw it. But it came with no history, and it's the only van in all the years I've had camper vans that is truly mine. So this is a very, very special van. And with Dave's blessing, I'm continuing with the life I love, which is raking the roads, the highways and byways, and seeing as much of the UK and Europe as I can possibly do.
OK, it's time to get technical again, and we're joined by our technical editor, Peter Rosenthal.
Peter is here to talk to us today about habitation door locks.
Yes, very, very important part of your motorhome. If you can't get into it, it's always a problem. And what we found with our own MMM's project vehicle, the door lock kept coming out, so we had loads of issues with the door lock. At first, I thought it was just the key barrel, which is fairly straightforward to swap and a very DIY task, but it actually turned out to be the whole lock mechanism. The barrel had worn over time.
Let's take a look.
Today I'm going to show you how to replace a door lock. This is a typical motorhome door lock. And the problem we've got with it, the barrel keeps coming out. Now obviously this has got security implications and we need to swap it. Now in this particular case, this uses the manufacturer FAP has made the lock where the lock barrel is Zardi. That's common. There's a lot of mix and match, so you do need to know what parts you have on the vehicle. Now, one of the issues I did find, while I can buy the replacement lock from FAP fairly easily, we got the part numbers off the back of it, and these are similar to the part numbers on the back of this, and we've checked all the measurements, so we know it's correct. But one of the problems I've got is the lock itself we have to replace with a different lock. So unfortunately, in this case, we've got different keys. They've actually moved to a high security lock system. Now, initially, when we were looking at this, we did think that it was the barrel that's faulty. In actual fact, it's not. It's the casing around the barrel has worn. So it's this bit we needed to renew. So I'm going to show you how to do it, but we'll start with the inside. The first thing we have to do is remove the plastic parts of the old lock. Now, there's 6 screw holes, but you can only see 2 visible screw heads. That's because these bottom 4 are hidden beneath these plastic covers. Right, we've got all our screws exposed now, so the next step is to unscrew it. Just do that, just bring it back here. You can see we've got the original mechanism exposed. So this is where the key barrel turns, and as you can see it's quite worn, waggling around. It's had a bit of rust on it as well on the circlip, so yeah. Now these have different lengths, so check you've got the right one. They also have these in right-hand and left-hand versions, so check it looks physically similar. There's a serial number on there and various labels, so check the two are roughly similar. The last few digits I've noticed are different. This one says PZ on it, this one says PEN. I think it's just a newer lock, but check with your manufacturer if you're not sure. There's lots of different locks on the market. Push it. There we go. Just help clean up this lock around here, just so we get a nice tight seal. Obviously make sure you put it in the right way round. Fits a treat. So you need to put the key in. Okay, so you've got the key in the barrel. Always do this with the door open. Oh, it goes in that way. There we go. So that's in. And just check it works. Right, next thing to do is to hold in the outer edge with the lock barrel horizontal. It goes in that hole there. It's just make the two halves back together. Just hold either side of the lock. Helps you've got big hands. And then try and get the top screw in. Yeah, that's going in fine. Next thing to do is need to lock the door and check it all works. So make sure you have another door open, just in case it doesn't work. When we first put it in, we found it was a bit stiff. I mean, really stiff to turn the lock. And what we found was we hadn't actually tightened up the screws enough. When you're activating to the lock, the inner handle, needs to move to the top locked position quite easily. If it doesn't, tighten these screws up a bit more. So check it goes from the unlocked to the locked position quite easily before you put it back. Shut the door, so that's open. That should be locked. I heard it click, so that's your new lock fitted.
It's time for Motor Mona.
I was rooting through all our old holiday snaps the other day when I came across one of our old Mercedes-based motorhomes on an idyllic beachside in Scotland. There was a small tent pitched outside the van, and it brought back some of those memories of the joy and the complications of travelling with young children. Bless them. They love the idea of proper camping in tents, and who were we to argue if they needed that closer communication with nature? Perhaps by now you're all wondering, where is this all heading? Well, it's all about sex. And occasionally evicting the kids from the van into a tent outside to allow all of us to have a closer contact with nature. The Clipper. It was built on a big wallowy Mercedes, came equipped with corner steadies, and whether the children ever twigged that we only used those steadies when they were in the tent, and then followed the thought of trail to its logical conclusion, we know not. They certainly haven't mentioned it, nor they ever will. For children, be they 15 or 50, cannot bear the thought, never mind voice it. You do have to wonder whether ever motor caravanners ever succumb to the temptation of the original sin while staying on campsites. And if so, do the rest of us really want to know? No, we don't. So I've come to a thought of a few do's, but mostly don'ts, of carnal relations on campsites. Perhaps MMM will one day produce a guide to successful sex on campsites. Perhaps not. The first rule of successful sex on campsites is to join the two main clubs, the Caravan and Motorhome Club, and the Camping and Caravanning Club. The second rule is never ever, under any circumstances, risk having sex on any of these sites owned or operated by those two august organizations. And if you do, then all your fellow campers will be either gathered outside your van whooping their appreciation, or hooting with derision, or you will be ostracized by the other caravanners for your disgraceful behavior. Deciding which reaction you receive, where and from, and who is left to your own judgment. If desperation sets in, then you do not even think about lowering your corner steadies in the middle of the afternoon in full view of everyone. And if you're contemplating closing all the curtains and then turning the music up very loud, you might as well run a flag up the pole proclaiming, Well, we're at it in here. So why join these clubs? Well, mainly for the certified sites found within the pages of the handbooks. Many of those will be deserted, and because of that lack of potential spectators, you won't be afflicted by those feelings of guilt or exposure that can affect your personal performance. Not that all are deserted, and if you arrive to find that there are other aging athletes on site, then the thing to do is to place your camping palace a decent but not excessive distance between yourselves and your neighbours. Do not take yourselves off to the furthest corner of the field in the far distance. Not only will this be flagging your intentions, but you will for certain be parked next to the chemical disposable point. And the strange thing is that whilst there seems to be all this delicacy in the matter of love and lust on the campsites in Britain, the whole nation's a reticence, and guilt seems to disappear completely in the wild camping situations abroad. And in this brave new world, we have witnessed some very courageous behaviour, usually near a beach, and even more usually in a small camper van with the sliding door wide open. Obviously, being British, we now avoid this type of location like the plague. Well, that's what we tell everyone. If by this time you're thinking that life of celibacy, whilst on the road, is the easiest course, well, who could blame you? But come on, rise to the challenge.
Well, that's it for another episode of MMMTV. If you want to find out more about motorhoming, then buy the magazine or go to the website.
Or check out Pocket Mags and Out and About Live. See you next time.
Let me out, mate.
We're not really in a van.
Oh yeah, see you next time.